The Bible contradicts itself, and it doesn't even try to hide it. Joshua chapter 10, verse 40. So Joshua defeated the whole land, he left none remaining. 3 chapters later, Joshua 13, verse 1, there remains yet very much land to be possessed. Same book, same author tradition. So what's going on? To understand this contradiction, we need to see what Joshua claims and how it tells its story. The book of Joshua divides into two clean halves. Part 1, chapters 2 through 12, the conquest. Spies enter the land. Israel crosses the Jordan River. The walls of Jericho fall. The city of Ai is taken. The Gibeonites trick Israel into a treaty. Then Joshua launches a southern campaign, a northern campaign, and the section closes with a summary list of defeated kings. Part 2, chapters 13 through 24, the aftermath. The conquered land gets divided among the 12 tribes. Joshua delivers a farewell address, and the book ends with a covenant renewal ceremony at Shechem. This structure matters because the cracks in the narrative show up right at the seam between these two halves. The Battle of Jericho is the most famous story in Joshua, and it's a perfect case study in how this text was built. Read the account carefully, and two distinct versions emerge, woven together into a single narrative. In one strand, Joshua's armed warriors march silently around the city once a day for 7 days. On the 7th day, they circle 7 times, shout, and the walls collapse. In the other strand, priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant lead the procession. They circle the city 13 times total, blowing ram's horn trumpets. The final text braids these two traditions together: warriors and priests, silence and trumpets, 7 circuits and 13. This is what scholars call a composite text. 2 earlier accounts merged by a later editor. The Jericho story isn't a single eyewitness report. It's a layered document, and recognizing those layers changes how we read everything else in the book. After the individual battle stories, Joshua delivers sweeping summary statements. Chapter 10, verse 40, Joshua defeated the whole land, the hill country, the Negev, the lowland, and left none remaining. Chapter 11, verse 15, Joshua did everything Moses commanded. Not one word was left undone. Chapter 11, verse 23, Joshua took the whole land. These read like theological declarations. They announce that God's promises have been fulfilled. Israel obeyed, and the God delivered. They function the way a hymn functions, proclaiming a truth about divine faithfulness. They are not military after-action reports. They are statements of faith, and the text itself will undermine them within pages. One concept makes the conquest stories especially difficult for modern readers: Herem. Herem, often translated as the ban, is the total destruction of a conquered city and everything in it. But Herem isn't random violence. It follows a strict theological logic. Yahweh fights the battle. Victory belongs to Yahweh. Therefore, the spoils are devoted to God through destruction. Total destruction becomes a sacred act of devotion. The Ark of the Covenant marches before the army as visible proof. This is God's war, not Israel's. The book of Joshua paints a picture of total, divinely powered conquest. But does the rest of the text agree? Not even close. Start with geography. The battles described in chapters 2 through 10, Jericho, Ai, Gibeon, the southern campaign, all cluster in a tiny area. Roughly the territory of one tribe, Benjamin, a narrow strip of the central hill country. The sweeping summary verses claim the entire land was conquered. The actual narrative describes a fraction of it. Then comes Joshua 13, verse 1. Joshua is old. God speaks to him directly. There remains yet very much land to be possessed. The book's own narrator admits the conquest was incomplete 3 chapters after declaring it total. The sharpest contradiction involves Jerusalem. Joshua chapter 12, verse 10 lists the king of Jerusalem among the defeated kings, victory claimed. But Judges chapter 1, verse 21 states plainly, the tribe of Benjamin did not drive out the Jebusites. the pre-Israelite inhabitants of Jerusalem, and the Jebusites live there to this day. Jerusalem didn't fall to Israel until King David captured it, roughly 200 years after Joshua's supposed conquest. This isn't a minor discrepancy. The book claims the king was defeated. The next book says the city was never taken. Place these verses side by side, and the total conquest narrative collapses. Judges chapter 1 provides the full corrective. It lists city after city from which the Canaanites were never expelled. Hebron and Debir, supposedly conquered in Joshua chapter 10, get reconquered after Joshua's death. The picture in Judges is radically different. A slow, incomplete tribe-by-tribe settlement. No unified army, no sweeping campaign. Partial success at best. The two books preserve two different memories of how Israel entered the land. If the conquest wasn't total and the text knows it, why tell the story this way? Because the book of Joshua isn't writing history, it's writing theology. The idealized conquest narrative carries a single, relentless message. Israel's success depends entirely on Yahweh. God parts the Jordan River, echoing the Red Sea crossing. God topples Jericho's walls. God sends panic into the Canaanite armies. The ark marches before the troops. Herem dedicates every victory back to God. Strip away the military details, and the theological core is simple. When Israel is faithful, God delivers. The narrative is shaped by that conviction. Every battle story, every summary verse, every act of Herem reinforces it. This gives you a transferable reading skill. When you encounter sweeping claims in ancient texts, check whether the text itself complicates the claim. In Joshua, it does, within 3 chapters. And the editors didn't smooth out the contradictions. They preserved them. Different traditions carried different authority, and flattening them into one voice would have meant losing something. The contradictions aren't errors. They're evidence of a text that valued multiple witnesses over a single tidy narrative. The Bible contradicts itself, and maybe that's the point. The book of Joshua isn't trying to give you a war report. It's trying to tell you who won the war, right? And the answer is Yahweh.